Unless you change how you are, you'll always have what you got.
Self-improvement is actually like a puzzle, but it's not the kind you finish in one night. The kind that tests your patience, the kind with missing pieces, the kind where the picture doesn't make sense until it's almost done. Most people give up halfway through because they can't see what they're building. But what if I told you the confusion, the setbacks, even the pain was a part of the design? There's a reason your journey feels messy. And by the end of this video, you'll understand why it had to be this way.
I could care less what they think. I'm fighting for life, brother. I'm fighting for all those people that have remolded their lives, man.
Warning! This video will change the way you see yourself and self-improvement.
In the puzzle of life, I'm but a piece, searching for my spot, it's quite the chase. Each challenge a new piece, a lesson learned. Patience and persistence, I hold them dear. Steps taken one by one, I move forward. With each step, clarity starts to pour. Like pieces fit in my path unfolds. In the intricate dance, I find my road.
What could you do to improve yourself? Well, let's step one step backwards. The first question might be, why should you even bother improving yourself? And I think the answer to that is something like, so you don't suffer any more stupidly than you have to.
Self-improvement is like a puzzle. Each piece fits just right. With every step I get closer to clarity. In this intricate dance, I find my way.
Part 1. The box is sealed, and you don't know what you're building.
When you open the box of life, you don't get a guide, you just get pieces. Self-improvement doesn't mean beginning with clarity. It begins with confusion. It begins with frustration, with sitting in a room full of scattered pieces, wondering if you're even meant to build something at all. Just like a puzzle, your journey starts in fragments, scattered, random, and most importantly, unrecognizable. You pick up one piece, maybe it's a job you hate, maybe it's the death of someone you love, maybe it's heartbreak, maybe it's being broke, maybe it's the day you realize you're not who you thought you'd be by now. And you look down, you look at your hands, you look at all the puzzle pieces, and you ask yourself, what am I supposed to do with this? See, no one tells you that the beginning doesn't look like a breakthrough. It looks like being lost, confused, overwhelmed. There's no instructions, no arrows pointing start here, no mentor handing you a map with your purpose clearly marked. Just a box of pieces, and all of them feel like they don't belong to each other, or even you. But here's what you need to understand. The fact that it feels confusing means you've begun. The chaos in front of you is not failure, it's foundation. You don't have to see the full picture yet. You just have to stay in the game. You ever seen someone working on a 1,000-piece puzzle? They didn't start with a perfect plan. They start with curiosity, with trial and error, with a few pieces placed and a lot of pieces that don't fit yet. Self-improvement works the same way. And maybe you're looking at other people right now on social media, in real life, and it feels like they got it all figured out, like their puzzle is complete. But let me tell you the truth. Everyone you admire is still missing pieces. You didn't see Michael Jordan when he got cut from his high school basketball team. You didn't see Steve Jobs when he got fired from the very company he created. You didn't see J. Cole when he was standing out selling mixtapes outside of Jay-Z's studio and getting rejected over and over again. You didn't see Tyler, the Creator, when people laughed at his music and thought he was weird. And now, he headlines arenas. You didn't see Kobe Bryant in the gym at 4 a.m. putting in 1,000 shots while the rest of the world was still asleep or going to the club. You didn't see the missing game winners The air balls as a rookie, the early hate, but that's how his puzzle came together. Obsession, discipline, piece by piece. And all you see today is a polished image. Behind that, years of doubt, rejection, failing forward, pieces that didn't make sense until they did. Let's make it even more real. There's a guy named Phil Knight. You probably don't know the name, but you wear his vision on your feet. He's the co-founder of Nike. You think Nike started off as a polished billion-dollar brand, huh? Nah. It started with a college paper, a dream about importing running shoes from Japan. He sold shoes out of his trunk. He was broke, taking huge risks. For years, nothing clicked. The vision didn't make sense, not even to his family. But he kept placing pieces. Today, Nike's swoosh is one of the most iconic symbols in the world. Or look at J. Cole. Today, he's one of the most respected artists in the game. But back then, he was just another kid in North Carolina making beats in his bedroom. He moved to New York with nothing but a dream and a demo. He waited outside of studios, got ignored, had doors slammed in his face. But he did not quit. He kept writing, kept producing, kept believing. Each song, each rejection, each freestyle, a piece. And now he's not just a rapper. He's a label owner, a producer, one of the most consistent voices in hip-hop. Why? Because he stayed long enough for the picture to become clear. And maybe right now, your life feels like that. A little awkward, lost, random, off script. But listen, that's not a mistake. That's where greatness starts. The problem is that we've been tricked into thinking that success shows up instantly. The one perfect moment will fix everything. But the truth is, it's a slow grind of putting one ugly piece after another until it makes a beautiful picture one day. Your job isn't to have it all figured out. Your job is to show up every day and start placing the pieces. Even when they don't fit. Even when you have to pull one back out and start over. Even when your hands shake with doubt and your brain screams, you're wasting your time. Because eventually, you won't just be placing random pieces. You'll start to recognize patterns. You'll see how that one setback was preparing you. You'll see how that heartbreak forced you to grow. You'll see how that job you hated taught you the discipline to handle the life you prayed for. Let me drop a jewel on you. Every great man you admire once started at a table full of pieces, just like you are now. They didn't quit because it didn't make sense. They didn't give up because they couldn't see the picture. They trusted the process. That trust built their masterpiece. So here's your task. Start where you are, with what you have, and place the next piece, even if it's small, even if it doesn't make sense yet. Because one day, maybe not today, maybe not next month, you'll look back at the whole picture and say, that's what I was building all along.
In the puzzle of life, each day's a piece. Steps I take fit in, make the picture nice. Patience and effort, they're my guiding light. Fitting every bit one by one inside.
Let me ask you a question. At what age should you have it all together? At what age should you have it all figured out? I get a lot of mostly young men on the channel, and they're from 17 to 35, 36, 39, and they lament that they're at a place in their life and they don't have it figured out, and they don't have it all together, and they wonder what's wrong with them because they don't have it figured out. They don't have it all together. Of course you don't have it all together. You're not supposed to have it all together. You're not expected to have it all together. Anybody looks at you at 26, 27, 28 years old and says, hey man, what's wrong with you? How come you don't have everything figured out? They're a fool.
Part 2. Patience is the edge. Peace.
You always start with the edges because you need a frame before the vision. When you sit down to solve a puzzle, you don't begin in the middle. You start with the edges. You build the frame. You create boundaries. Why? Because even you don't know what the full picture looks like. The frame gives you structure. And in life, that frame is patience, discipline, values. Before you chase goals, before you hunt money, before you obsess over status, you build your edges. Because without that structure, everything falls apart. Success without patience becomes burnout. Success without values becomes corruption. Success without discipline becomes collapse. And that's the silent reason why so many men feel like they're starting over again and again. Not because they're weak, because they skipped the frame. We live in a culture that worships speed, instant results, instant validation. You scroll on your feed and see six-figure businesses, shredded physiques, picture-perfect relationships, and it feels like everybody's living the dream except you. But here's the truth. What you see is the middle of their puzzle. You didn't see the edges, the pieces laid down when nobody was watching. Let's talk about some of those edge pieces and the men who built them. Patience, Kobe Bryant, in the 4 a.m. workouts. Everybody talks about Mamba mentality, but what is that really? It's patience disguised as obsession. When Kobe was 18, he wasn't even starting on the Lakers. He airballed 4 times in the playoff game, humiliated in front of the world. But did he give up? Hell no. He started waking up at 4 a.m. to shoot hundreds of jumpers before practice, day after day, year after year. While other players slept in, Kobe was building edges. He once said, I have nothing in common with lazy people who blame others for their lack of success. That's patience, not just waiting, but working while you wait. Staying committed when it looks like you're behind. Trusting that the early mornings will pay off, even if it takes years for results. The mirror of the truth, the discipline. That's discipline. That's your edge. And the values, J. Cole is a living example of them. J. Cole could have sold out. He could have chased the clout, the chains, the mainstream hits, but he didn't. He stayed true to himself. Even when critics called him boring, even when his music didn't go viral, even when it wasn't cool to rap about growth and introspection. He said no to chasing trends, and yes to building a legacy. He traded flash for foundation. And today, he's one of the most respected artists in the game. Not because he moved fast, but because he stood for something. What's the price for your soul, he asked. That's values. That's an edge piece. Now let's bring this back to you. You may not be famous, you may not have millions, but if you're patient, if you're disciplined, and you build your values, you're already ahead of most people. Because most people are addicted to momentum. They only move when things are exciting. They only commit when results are instant. They abandon the puzzle when the pieces don't click fast enough. But you build slow. You build solid. You build smart. Now let me ask you something personal. How many dreams have you abandoned, not because they failed, but because they took too long? How many times did you assume it wasn't meant for you just because it didn't happen in 3 minutes? Impatience has broken more men than failure ever could. You don't need overnight success. You need long-term character. The man who moves slow but never quits will always outrun the man who sprints but burns out. Here's the secret that nobody tells you. The stronger your edges, the more chaos you can hold in the middle. You can lose your job, but you won't lose your self-worth. You could get rejected, but you won't crumble. You could take an L, but you'll keep building. because your foundation is already set. You've got patience, you've got discipline, you've got values. And those are the pieces that hold the whole picture together when everything else feels like it's falling apart. So next time you feel behind, stop scrolling and start framing. Ask yourself, am I being patient? Am I showing up with discipline? Am I standing on my values? If the answer is yes, you're winning, even if the world hasn't started clapping for you yet. Because real growth is quiet. Real transformation happens in silence. And the puzzle you build slowly is the one that doesn't fall apart when life shakes the table. Strong edges make unshakable men. Don't rush the process, frame it first.
In the puzzle of life, each day's a piece. Steps I take fit in, make the picture nice. Patience and effort, they're my guiding light. Fitting every bit, one by one inside.
Think you're done? Then life hands you another piece.
Life does not cease from challenging you. And that doesn't change even if you awaken spiritually. You will get other challenges, different kinds of challenges. The only difference is, as you awaken spiritually, the way in which you respond to the challenges changes. And that is all important.
Just when you think the puzzle's complete, life gives you one more piece. You ever sit back and think I made it? You start feeling good. Things are finally clicking. The gym routine is locked in. You're getting respected at work. Your girl is proud of you. Your money looks all right. And for the first time in a long time, your mind is quiet. You breathe. And then, boom, a piece drops on your lap. One that doesn't fit. A piece called divorce, layoff, a sick parent, a mental breakdown. You didn't see it coming, and suddenly, it's like the whole puzzle got knocked off the table. But here's what nobody told us growing up as men. Growth is not a destination, it's a revelation. There's no I'm done. There's no final form. Because every time you think you've reached the edge, life expands the canvas. Why is this happening again? We've all asked that question. I'm sure Michael Jordan asked it when his father died at the peak of his career. Or I'm sure he asked it when he came back from baseball and he lost in the playoffs. He had already proved everything. 6-time champ, greatest to ever do it. But that loss, that piece of disappointment, he used it to come back hungrier, sharper, and meaner. It wasn't regression, it was the next piece that pushed him to another level of dominance. That's what we miss. Pain doesn't always mean something went wrong. Sometimes it means something is deeper and is being built. We've all thought, I thought I was past this. LeBron James had this moment when he lost the 2011 finals to the Mavericks. He was the villain. The world hated him. He already had built his empire in Miami, but after that loss, he had to confront the parts of himself that weren't ready to win. He thought he was complete, but life handed him another piece called humility, a piece called mental composure. And once he fit those into his picture, the rings followed. We've all thought, I thought I was healed. That line hits home for many of us. You go to therapy, you journal, you cut off toxic people, you forgive your past, and then one day a scent, a song, a situation pulls up the old version of you like it never left. Let me tell you something real. Healing is not erasing, it's integrating. That new pain, that new doubt. It's not a setback, it's a doorway to a deeper strength. You're not failing, you're expanding. Steve Jobs got fired from his own company, Apple, and he could have folded. He could have called it the end of the puzzle, but instead he used that exile to reimagine everything. Started Pixar, started Next, and when he came back to Apple, he wasn't the same man who left. He was better, wiser, complete in a way he never could have been without that extra unwanted piece. The piece that felt like a loss was actually a legacy. You don't see the picture now, but you will. Listen to me. That breakup that shattered you, that job you got passed over for, the moment when you laid on the floor thinking, I'm done. Those are the pieces that give the image texture, depth, story. You don't want a flat puzzle. You don't want a perfect story, because perfect doesn't inspire. You want layers, struggle, victory, growth. You want a story that makes people say, damn, he made it through that. And trust me when I tell you this, there is no finish line. Kobe Bryant was obsessed with the process. Even after winning rings, he'd show up. The legend Allen Iverson said, I could have been as great as Kobe, but I didn't want it as bad as Kobe. While I was at the club, he was at the gym. While I was messing with all them females, drinking and partying, he was at the gym. He was always scheming on how to become a better basketball player, a better man, a better father, a better husband. Why? Because he knew the puzzle never ends. It just keeps evolving. Mamba mentality wasn't about perfection, it was about progression. He didn't fear new pieces, he welcomed them, he chased them, because he understood. Your life isn't about one final image. It's about consistently refining the masterpiece. Here's the truth. You're not broken because life sent you another test. You're not weak because you feel something new. And you're not going backwards because a new piece showed up. You're growing, expanding, leveling up. Just because the picture looked done to you doesn't mean it was. So take that piece, even if it hurts, even if it doesn't fit yet. One day, you'll look back and realize that piece, that one I almost threw away, made the whole thing beautiful.
In the puzzle of life, each day's a piece. Steps I take fit in, make the picture nice.
If I had never dropped out, I would have never dropped in on that calligraphy class, and personal computers might not have the wonderful typography that they do. Of course, it was impossible to connect the dots looking forward when I was in college, but it was very, very clear looking backwards 10 years later. Again, you can't connect the dots looking forward. You can only connect them looking backwards. So you have to trust that the dots will somehow connect in your future. You have to trust in something, your gut, destiny, life, karma, whatever. Because believing that the dots will connect down the road will give you the confidence to follow your heart even when it leads you off the well-worn path. And that will make all the difference.
Part 4. You won't see the picture until it's done.
You ever look back and say, now I get it? I know I have. That's the power of hindsight. That's the moment the puzzle snaps into focus. Until that moment, everything feels like madness. You give your years to a dream, and it still feels out of reach. You go all in on a relationship, and it still falls apart. You grind, you struggle, you sacrifice, and you wonder if it even matters. That's what the middle of the puzzle feels like. Scattered, exhausting, sometimes hopeless. You're working so hard, but the picture still isn't clear. But here's the secret. The most important pieces never make sense while you're placing them. They look like failure. They feel like heartbreak. They arrive disguised in pain, loss, confusion. And you ask, why is this happening? What's the point? When do I finally win? But then months later, sometimes years later, you look back and see it. Oh, now I get it. Let's go back to Kobe and let's talk about his early NBA struggles. Remember, we talked about when he first got into the league at 17. He didn't dominate right away. In fact, he struggled during his first playoff series. Like we talked about earlier in the video, he shot 4 air balls in the final moments of the game on national TV in front of millions. People mocked him. Analysts said he wasn't ready. He was too young. But what did Kobe do? He flew back to LA that night and went straight to the gym. Midnight, no cameras, no coach, just a 17-year-old kid and a ball. He later said, those air balls gave me everything. That pain became my fuel. At the time, it looked like failure, but years later, we realized it was just one piece of a much bigger picture, one called Mamba mentality. Now we all heard of or slept in an Airbnb, right? Did you know that they were sleeping on the floor? In 2008, the founders of the Airbnb was broke. They couldn't pay rent, so they rented out air mattresses on the apartment floor and called it Air Bed and Breakfast. People laughed, investors passed, they maxed out credit cards just to survive. But what looked like desperation was actually innovation. What looked like failure was actually a foundation. Fast forward a decade, Airbnb is now worth over $100 billion. And the pieces that didn't make sense, the sleepless nights, the rejections, the ramen noodles, they became the reason it all worked. See, the picture only snaps together at the end. Life will hand you pieces that make you question everything. The heartbreak that wrecked you, the layoff that humbled you, the detour that made no sense. When the puzzle is done, there are pieces you thank the most because they taught you to trust without proof, to walk forward without a map, to stay in the game even when the board looked empty. That's what real growth looks like. These are some famous men who stayed when it made no sense. Every great man you admire at some point had to trust the process blindly. Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson had $7 in his pocket after being cut from the CFL. No backup plan, just faith and drive. Virgil was rejected by top fashion schools and brands for years before he became the first black artistic director at Louis Vuitton. Michael Jordan didn't make his first high school varsity team. That rejection made him obsessed with becoming great. Floyd Mayweather lost in the Olympics when he was a teenager, and he never lost again. 50 Cent lost his mom when he was a kid. He almost lost his life in his early 20s. But look where he's at now. None of these people saw the full picture in the moment. They just placed one piece, then another, until one day, that image revealed itself. See, the pieces you're placing today may not give you answers yet, but they're shaping the man you can't fully see right now. The man who didn't quit, the man who stayed patient, the man who built character when no one was watching. You're not broken, you're just unfinished, and every piece you place is proof that you're still becoming. Now, if you feel a little depressed because your pieces aren't working out on the board, watch this video on the screen.